Welcome to Prime Life. We call it Retirement 2.0. Leave each episode with tips and new ideas to help you navigate retirement in our new age. It's your time. Make it count.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical, investment, or financial advice. We do not sponsor or endorse any of the individuals, companies, products, or services featured on this podcast. Any statements or opinions expressed are of the individual who makes them. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Hi, and welcome back to the Prime Life podcast. It's where we explore the ideas, innovations, and people shaping the future of longevity. If you're interested in living healthier, this is the episode you will not want to miss. I'm Mary Crean, and I'm here with Josef Katz. Josef, it's been a minute.
In a little while. I've missed a couple of shows. That is true.
Well, welcome back. It's great to have you. Without further ado, please introduce our guest.
For you, Mary, anything. So it's my pleasure to welcome, and I hope I don't mess up the name, Adria Giordano, who is the Connecticut Executive Director of the American Heart Association, the nation's oldest and largest voluntary organization dedicated to fighting heart disease and stroke funding innovative research, fighting for stronger public health policies, and providing critical tools and information to save and improve lives. There's a lot more to your background, so I'm going to hand the mic over to you, Adria, and please tell us a little bit more about yourself, and we'll get the show started.
That's a very interesting background. Adria, I didn't realize all of that. And you and I have known each other over the years, and I've been in the community, and this is very important, what we're going to be discussing today. So February is Heart Month. I have my red on. I know you do too. Why is this month so important, especially for raising awareness about women's heart health?
As you mentioned, February is Heart Month. And we like to call the American Heart Association, we call it our Super Bowl. It's a national campaign dedicated to raising awareness about cardiovascular disease, which is the leading cause of death for both men and women, yet most women do not know this.
Mary focused on the women. Is there a reason that, you said women don't know this, but is there a reason that there's an assumption it's more affecting men than women?
I would say most people, when they think of women and they think of health issues, they might think of something like breast cancer, but it truly is the number one killer of women. 1 in 3 women experience some form of heart disease. And so our Go Red for Women movement, it's a national movement, brings awareness to the startling statistic and to end heart disease and stroke.
Adria, I've been in the audience at your event, and I've heard many statistics, and I've also heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, that some of the symptoms that women experience, which could be an indicator that something is going on cardiovascularly or with their heart, or one and the same. Can you talk a little bit about how that may differ from men to women?
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to preface that I'm not a cardiologist, but I would say that, some of the heart attack warning signs are similar for both. The chest discomfort, most cardiac attacks involve discomfort in the center of your chest, pressure that doesn't go away, the shortness of breath. However, more women are likely than men to experience some other types of symptoms, as you mentioned, such as shortness of breath, nausea, vomiting, but they could also have, pain in the back of their neck, different types of discomfort, exhaustion that they tend to, as you know, women put it off and don't take care of themselves and think of themselves last. So I would say if you are feeling something that's not normal, please talk to a physician. Don't wait.
I was going to ask, what should they do? But I'm assuming if they're really having problem breathing, they should call 911 or go directly to an ER kind of a thing. I know that the American Heart Association has talks about Life's Essential 8. Can you tell us what that's all about and maybe share some light on what that is?
Yes, absolutely. We love Life's Essential 8. It is the American Heart Association's very simple, science-based, it's a checklist for how people can improve and maintain cardiovascular health. It's really like in two categories. So there's a list of 8. The first category are health behaviors. And I know you'll have the link afterwards so they can learn more about it. But it is how can we really look at our behavior day to day? So it's eating better, right? Being more active. Do you have regular physical activity? Is there movement? I'm not saying that you need to exercise for an hour a day, but what type of movement are you doing? Especially people that work remotely. Are they sitting in a chair? Do they stand up every hour? Avoiding tobacco. As we know, smoking or vaping significantly increases cardiovascular risk. And then the fourth health behavior is getting enough sleep. And we recently found out, there has been a new study that adults actually need 7 to 9 hours of sleep nightly. Sleep supports brain health, healing, reduces chronic risk. So those are the 4 health behaviors: eating, being more active, avoiding tobacco, and getting healthy sleep. And then there's the health factors. Those are other checklists within our Life's Essential 8. Maintaining a healthy weight. Weight influences blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, and inflammation. The second one is managing blood pressure. We call, hypertension, blood pressure, high blood pressure, the secret killer. Most people are not aware of what their blood pressure is. So keeping those levels between 120 over 80 for optimal cardiovascular protection. Controlling your cholesterol. As we get older, when we go to the doctor, they often check what is your cholesterol level. So high levels of cholesterol contribute to plaque buildup and heart disease. And then regulate your blood sugar. High blood sugar can damage the heart, kidneys, nerves, and blood vessels over time. So making sure that we are maintaining the healthy weight, managing our blood pressure and cholesterol, knowing what those numbers are, very critical, and then regulating your blood sugar. And it really matters for women, particularly through their life stages as they're going through their midlife.
Well, that's a good point that you make, going through midlife.
Yes. We here at the American Heart Association, we really look at how are we helping women through all of life stages, through infancy, through menopause, and then end of life. And American Heart Association actually provides a Life's Essential 8 for women. It's a version tailored to achieve these needs.
As we do hit middle age, let's say, and this could be the same for men or women, what are some of those behaviors, etc.? When is a good time to really understand middle-aged? Things are changing in my body and I need to be more.
And we'll get that answer after a brief word from our commercial sponsors.
NASA is always working harder to be your carrier of choice. We offer insurance products that can help you meet your retirement goals, such as protecting your savings, securing lifetime income, or paying for healthcare costs. We're dedicated to providing best-in-class service and are keeping things simple, and we'll have your back. We have around 400,000 policyholders and contract holders and have been doing this for a long time, 170 years, but we remain humble enough to always try to improve. For more information, visit nfg.com. Nassau insurance products are issued by Nassau Life and Annuity Company of Hartford, Connecticut, Nassau Life Insurance Company, East Greenbush, New York, or Nassau Life Insurance Company of Kansas, Overland Park, Kansas. Subsidiaries of Nassau Financial Group. Products are not available in all areas. Policyholder counts are for all Nassau companies as of September 30th, 2022, and are subject to change.
Aware.
Absolutely. And you said it exactly right. For women in their 50s to 60s, these areas that we mentioned, the health behaviors and the health factors, become even more important because cardiovascular risk accelerates around menopause. And so with shifts in your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your body fat distribution and metabolism, it is so important that women are aware of this and have the education and tools. What are some of the risks? You don't have to change all 8 behaviors today, right? Improving just 1 or 2 of these really can create meaningful gains in long-term health. So, you could start with movement. It doesn't have to be a gym routine. As I mentioned, any movement is better than none. Are you standing up? Are you walking around a few minutes each hour? Makes a difference. You could pick one small nutrition change, adding a serving of vegetables, Are you drinking more water? We always talk about, like, you now see all the water bottles. Look at the young women in society today. I have 2 young daughters in their early 20s. They always have their water bottle with them. So thinking about like adding more water to your diet. Do you know your blood? Check your blood pressure. Ask your doctor. Get a blood pressure check machine. It's not, you can order them on Amazon, but many people don't realize blood pressure is high, and it's one of the key drivers of heart disease. Another one, and I'm not great at this one myself, is sleep. It's often overlooked. Aim for 7 to 9 hours because restoring your body is essential for your heart. I've heard that, when you go to sleep, your brain resets. It's so critical. Again, I'm not wonderful at that, but I'm trying to set my bedtime routine a half hour earlier to make sure I'm trying to get those 7 hours of sleep. So I would say, just choose. This is a great month to focus on one habit that you can change. Heart health is really built through consistency. And so it's not about perfection, but it's about maybe picking 1 or 2 changes that you can incorporate into your day over time.
So you mentioned sleep. It was on top of my list when you went through the top 4 behaviors. Is that 7 to 9 hours of uninterrupted sleep? Is that 7 to 9 hours of sleep over a 24-hour period? People have different sleeping habits. As you age, you get less and less uninterrupted sleep. I think we all can agree on that. And what is the study uninterrupted? So that's a challenge, right? Without getting into the gory details, it's harder and harder for people as they age. So are there recommendations that the study made about it?
You could absolutely go on our website and what I love about the American Heart Association, we have all these free resources, heart.org, and you could pull up what are some tips, what are some practices that I can put into place. And I would say you're also, if you have young people or other people you're living with, you're modeling this behavior. I was at an event recently and we had a life coach that works with us, and she was talking about screen time. I mean, think about what you're doing before you go to bed. And what is the first thing you grab when you wake up? I mean, it's your phone, right? Carving out 30 minutes before you go to bed, putting the digital technology away, whether it's an iPad, you're reading the news, you're checking your emails, putting that away and building a brand new nighttime routine. It might involve journaling, reading a book, meditation, listening to some music. It's that digital. It's hard to turn your brain off. I mean, I too, Joseph, I struggle with turning my brain off. But what can we put into place? What is one habit that we can focus on that will help us become the healthier version of ourselves?
I just want to ask a somewhat not direct follow-up, but connected to the 8 essentials. You mentioned blood sugar. I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it as a question just for clarification purposes. Blood sugar is somewhat correlated, but not only correlated to the food we eat, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So what advice or suggestions do you have for people to think about that?
And we have wonderful, wonderful medical physicians that are key volunteers for us. And so it goes with the health behavior also about eating better. Think about the processed food. Think about what you're eating. It's hard to change everything, but if you could eat whole foods, fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, nuts and seeds, and healthy fats. What are those healthy fats? I think about avocado, but really high blood sugar can damage the heart over time. And so it's really important, especially, we go back to women through their midlife. When blood pressure, cholesterol, and body composition shifts, it increases your risk. So adding more whole foods into your diet rather than processed foods. Listen, I love French fries. I am not going to say that I will stop eating French fries. 1 or 2 is not going to, hurt you. But over time, fast food and all that packaged food and processed food, it really damages our body. And so
I challenge you to only eat 1 or 2 French fries.
Yeah, I will tell you, you can ask my husband or something. He'll have a burger with fries. And I'm like, I need to have 3 of those fries. I'll put them on a dish. But it's about limiting the processed foods, adding, the added sugars. And what I love about the American Heart Association is we have healthy cooking tips. We have healthy recipes on our website. And what better month than February to start incorporating some of these healthy nutrition into your life?
I agree with that. Are there any trends that the American Heart Association is seeing in the last several years that perhaps they didn't see before in terms of people's habits or, again, you talked about processed food. I definitely have heard that over and over again, that makes a difference. And I believe it does, especially for those individuals who have lived in other places and did not come from a background of eating processed foods.
Yes, I think movement. I think we've become very sedentary since the pandemic, and we've seen studies that show that people are sitting more, they're in front of their screen more, they're not socializing as much, they're not. Think about the companies that have the hybrid component or fully remote. They're not getting up, going to the printer. They're sitting at their desk. So we are so consumed with making sure that we're accessing every single email, responding to every single phone call. And we often put ourselves last, especially I'll bring it back to women because, our Go Red for Women movement. We put ourselves last. We don't think it's important to take care of ourselves because we have to do everything perfect. And so as we age, when we think about in their 50s, I would say that it becomes even more important that women are paying attention to their numbers, making sure that they're modifying their behaviors because there's an increased risk for heart disease. So maybe not new except for the pandemic, but the awareness. We are focused, we have an entire website with a couple pages dedicated to menopause and learning about how we can maintain healthy lifestyle through menopause, learning about in your 60s, watching our numbers, managing any health problems. In your 60s and beyond, medical problems are more prevalent. Our body is adjusting to our third chapter. So people with fewer health issues are likely to have fewer doctor visits. And, there could be some genetic predispositions that you may not be able to change, but for sure, the behaviors, the eating healthier, making sure you're moving, drinking water, getting the sleep we talked about, Joseph, 80% of heart disease is preventable. And so that is such an important message that we're trying to bring to everybody.
Yeah, I was going to touch on the genetics. So I'm glad you brought that up. Obviously, people have, a history and, passed along from their families. Medication today has, come a long way. So obviously, if you have high cholesterol, there's lots of medications you can take. I know none of us are doctors, so we're not mentioning names, but does the American Heart Association have any indication of what percentages heart disease is caused by genetics versus lifestyle?
I'd have to look into that and get back to you, but I would say the fact that 80% of heart disease is preventable is a number that everybody should be aware of. But you did say something that's very important is family and genetics. And so knowing what your family history is so powerful, and bringing that to your doctor when you're sitting down with your doctor. Do you have a history of heart disease? Do you have a history of brain stroke? Do you have a history of strokes in your family? It is so important because that plays into how you might be developing and what you need to be looking out for. What are your risks involved? Because you do have that family history. Knowledge is power, as we've heard, and it is so important to know your family history. If you don't, find out, talk to them, but it will for sure be important for you to share this with your doctor.
Yeah, I agree with you about lifestyles and preventative, what you can do. My husband's a great example. He has some genetics that you cannot change, but he's so dedicated to exercise for all of the reasons, and diet, that's a big deal as well. And let's face it, it's a lifelong journey. And there are times where it's not so easy. I was thinking about that today after the weekend, right? What did I eat this weekend? Or it's been so cold. I haven't gotten out as much as I usually do for a jog or just to be outside. Fresh air is amazing. I think all of these things that we can do, but you do have to be so dedicated because it's easy to say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow or I'll do it later this month. So just more of a comment. As we get near the end of our conversation, Adria, can you just share a couple of very quick points that you want our audience to take away from our conversation with you?
Absolutely. I would say, I agree with you. It is hard. It is not easy, as we mentioned, to do all of the things to become the healthiest version of ourselves. But women in particular, especially if you have young children or you are modeling behaviors, you have to model this behavior, right? And as you said, like it's a lifelong journey. If you're smoking, I would say quit smoking. That's a right there. That's an easy way to quit. Start with movement. It doesn't need to be a gym routine. Any movement is better than no movement. Pick one small nutrition change. I started yoga practicing last year and I love it. Sometimes I'll do a virtual yoga if it's too cold or I might not make it to a class. It is so critical for women they often put themselves last. And we hear this all the time. And you have to let go of that. You have to let go of that. I'm being selfish. I can't take care of myself because I have to do all the things for all the people. I think, the biggest change has to be in your head, right? You can't change anything unless you change that mind of letting go who you think you need to be to take care of yourself so you can have a longer, healthier life. So as you said, Mary, it was a cold weekend. Most people are not going to be putting sneakers on to walk outside. Okay, walk up and down your steps. Drink more water. Get the sleep, Joseph. Like set your alarm a little bit earlier. Try really hard. Like give yourself a goal. I'm not going to look at my phone twice before I go to bed this week. I learned the other thing I started doing was box breathing. Stress. We've learned about stress and how important that is around our mental health and our heart. Box breathing. That was a great technique. There's this quote from Brene Brown that says, we can't practice compassion with other people if we can't treat ourselves kindly. We are so hard on ourselves, men and women. And growing up, I didn't see my mother take care of herself, so I've learned to push through everything without hitting that pause button. So Heart Month is a time for women to take a minute, take a breath, talk to a friend, go on our website, talk with their partner, talk with their spouse, do it together. Simple changes can make such a big difference.
Before Mary asks the final question, I have an editorial comment. This past weekend, talking about yoga, my wife and I was challenging her more than she would challenge me to how many different poses can she get into just to see. We were having fun, just enjoying each other's company. But a lot of what you've talked about also just kind of overlaps with some of the conversations Mary and I've had in the past with other, disease type of issues, cognitive related things like movement, sleep, etc. all have holistic impact. It's not just on your heart. So I think it's, focus on the heart, obviously, for February and forever, but it has a more macro impact on your body. So highly recommend everyone take at least one step, like you suggested, one simple step.
Yeah, one simple
feel
step.
better too. I realized last year I was turning 55. My joints hurt. I was out of breath when we were on vacation, and I said, I need to make a change, like walk the walk, right? And so one step at a time, I signed up. I could never compete, Joseph, with you and your wife with the yoga poses, but I just did like a foundation class of yoga, like basic foundation. But the biggest change really needs to be in your head. You need to take a moment, let go of who you think you need to be able to take care of yourself and others. And again, practice kindness with yourself. We have 2 events at the American Heart Association coming up this month and next month, all around Go Red for Women, right on our website. So that's another great idea. Come and join us.
I know we're focusing on women as we talk about Go Red for Women, but I also want to say more men are doing the child care than maybe years ago, and their roles have shifted. It's both, men, we need you around, take care of yourself as well. Many of these things apply to you. That's my final comment. But before we go and I ask you the final question, Joseph, do you have any final thoughts?
I was just going to qualify. The yoga challenge was how many different
Adria,
animal poses can we each get into?
On our podcast.
Camel, down dog, cat, cow, etc. So it was fun.
I do cow and cat. And
yeah. It was just about fun. Cobra, all this stuff. It was just fun.
I love it.
We ask everyone on our podcast, why do you do what you do every day? You could do lots of things and you choose to do this work. What's your why?
That's a great question. My why is my daughters. Again, I talked about not seeing that growing up. So I want to make sure that I'm here to see them get married, have children, see them blossom in their careers. I'm being more intentional because I really want to make sure that I am there for the future for my daughters. And one small change can make a difference.
No, I agree with that. If individuals want to get in touch with you or the information, what's the best way?
Yes, absolutely. So they can certainly get in touch with me on Instagram. It's at Adria HeartCon is my Instagram handle. And then HeartCon is our website. Heart.org is our American Heart Association. We have so many tools and resources on our website.
And we will put everything in the show notes for those of you that are listening, that you're trying to jot things down quickly. Thank you for joining us today, Adria. It's great to see you in red. Joseph, thanks for joining me today. It's been a while, and hope you'll come back again soon.
I didn't get the memo to wear red, so I apologize.
My bad. I should have mentioned something. And to our listeners, we appreciate you listening to the Prime Life podcast. Share this with your friends, your family, and everyone have a great rest of their day.
Thank you so much.
Remember to subscribe to the Prime Life podcast anywhere you find podcasts. You can find all of our episodes, contact information, and more on our website, primelifepodcast.com. Stay connected with us. Follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.